Lyman. I am the Community Empowerment Manager for the Food Bank of the Southern Tier, and I am going to, in this video, walk you through the engagement path that we have laid out for all of our different stakeholders to further engage in advocacy and community empowerment work with the Food Bank of the Southern Tier. The first thing I'll draw your attention to is the key at the top left of this slide. So we have categorized, color-coded opportunities in this engagement path. The first is narrative change, meaning we're trying to change the narrative that folks have in their minds, particularly in our community in the Southern Tier, about who experiences poverty and food insecurity and why they experience that. And we're really trying to make sure that we have a shift from having an understanding of these issues being the fault of an individual towards more of a structural and systemic understanding of the root causes of these issues. The second you see there in orange is public policy advocacy. This has a lot to do with connecting with our elected officials and affecting change on the policies that govern nutrition programs. The third is education. The fourth is developing leaders. One of our goals in our client engagement work in particular, but throughout our work, is to develop leaders to build out more and more folks who are taking on leadership in the community empowerment and advocacy world. Next up is volunteering, pretty self-explanatory. And then we also have a category that falls under data, evaluation, and improving our programs at the Food Bank of the Southern Tier. So let's start with our two kind of main entry points. So the first is community advocates training, which is specialized entry point for community members, potentially clients of the Food Bank of the Southern Tier, who have lived experience with poverty and food insecurity. Community advocates training is a 12-week training that covers a lot of the topics needed for taking on leadership, including self-care, public policy advocacy, public speaking, root causes, and other topics. And really the purpose of that is to prepare folks to take on whatever leadership they are excited about taking on in the community around these issues whenever they finish the program and as they become a full-fledged community advocates program member. The second entry point is for everybody else, the general public, volunteers, partner agency representatives, board of directors, employees. And so for those folks, they're going to start with basic trainings. So we have 2 workshops that are foundational to getting further involved with the food bank in the realm of community empowerment. So the first is Food Banking 101, which of course covers all there is to know about which of course covers how food banking in general works, as well as how the Food Bank of the Southern Tier in particular operates. And then the second is Hunger 101. And this is listed under everyone who's not going through community advocates training because it's assumed that a lot of the folks may not have had as close of an experience with food insecurity in this kind of green entry point over here. So Hunger 101, the purpose is of course to help those who have not had a close experience with food insecurity, a personal experience or a loved one, have a taste of what that is like. So to go through a simulation to understand what it's like to experience that, but then also what resources are available in the community for people who are experiencing that issue. After that, people have the opportunity to move on to more of these intermediate level trainings. That includes Advocacy 101, which is all about working with our elected officials and doing public policy advocacy. From there, folks who might work at a pantry or otherwise have connections might collect client story leads for our story bank that we would share with elected officials and use in advocacy work. They might also recruit clients for community advocates training if they have a connection there. They might do local or Zoom visits with their own elected officials, and they might even go to one of our bigger lobby day events, either in Albany or in DC, as is connected with the Anti-Hunger Policy Conference. Another path that somebody might choose to take is to take a deeper look at root causes. So they might take the racial wealth gap simulation that we offer. And then from there, they might choose to go even deeper and move on to our currently only advanced training, which is Economic Inequality 101, which is being offered right now on a limited basis for those who are really ready to get to that level. And if they're doing that, then they might be kind of moving on to connect with a different movement type of organization that's sort of outside of the scope of the food bank, but connecting them with something like the Poor People's Campaign, where they can really take a deep dive into root cause work. And then the third intermediate option is trauma-informed care training, which is certainly a great option for our agency representatives, but is really applicable to a lot of our different stakeholders, knowing just how pervasive trauma is and how most of us are interacting on a day-to-day basis, unfortunately, with someone who's experienced trauma, even if we haven't experienced it ourselves. So from the community advocates training entry point, once folks have completed that 12-week training, which includes the vast majority of the topics covered here in this general public, et cetera, other stakeholders path, they then might participate in speaking engagements where they are able to help debunk stereotypes and myths about who experiences food insecurity and why. They might move on to volunteer with the food bank or a partner agency or a community organization that we can help direct them to, such as Vines in Binghamton, which is community essays. From there, they might even move on to taking on leadership with one of those organizations. They also might mentor other clients. They might participate in our data and evaluation work, so assisting with surveys or listening sessions or our client advisory process and feedback loops. And finally, they might actually be trained up to co-facilitate trainings, including the community advocates training. So I hope this helps you understand just some of the options that are available to folks within our community empowerment work and what that kind of trajectory can look like. So if you're trying to understand what those options are, this can sort of operate as a roadmap for you.